Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach, held Tuesday, May 17th, 2022 at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Postoli.
Here.
Councilmember Lester.
Here.
Councilmember Bendo.
Present.
Vice President Treston.
Here.
President McGinnis.
Present.
Let the record indicate the presence of City Manager Donna Gaden and Corporation Counsel Richard Berrios. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
I'll say it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You first? Okay.
President McGinnis, can we just do a mic check all around?
Okay, I wanted to welcome everyone to the second meeting in May of the business of the Long Beach City Council. We have a packed agenda tonight, and that being said, on behalf of the entire council, I would like to thank everyone who has participated for all their hard work to prepare the materials for tonight. A lot of people have worked really, really hard to present this information, and we thank you. And finally, I'm looking forward to productive discussions so that we all may best serve the residents of Long Beach. Donna?
Thank you very much. I just have a statement from Michael DeLore. The Long Beach Lifeguard alumni would like to thank all departments who were involved in a very successful event, especially Carrie Ann Troy, who helped prepare the flyer, and there are too many to thank, but the compliments were plentiful from everyone who came. And this was for the dedication of the lifeguard booth. This is from Michael DeLore. That's all I have.
All right, on to the public hearings. We're going to call them out of order. We're going to call the fourth public hearing first, which is the bond ordinance authorizing financing for the cost of the construction and reconstruction of improvements to the city's water pollution control plant and South Shore reclamation facilities, stating the estimated total cost thereof is $123,095,799, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $123,095,799 bonds of said city to finance said appropriation, and further authorizing any amounts received from the United States of America and or the state of New York to be expended towards the cost of such project or redemption of any notes and bonds issued therefore, or to be budgeted as an offset to the taxes for payment of the principal of and interest on said bonds and any notes issued in anticipation thereof.
Okay. Commissioner.
Testing.
Yes. It's changed. I know.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Before I get started, I know it's difficult to see usually at this time of the day. We've had that complaint before, so there are copies of the presentation up here for anyone who would like to see it up close. Okay, thank you, everyone. My name is Joseph Fabrizio. I'm the Commissioner of Public Works for the City of Long Beach. This is a public hearing, as Dave said, on the bond ordinance authorizing financing for the Long Beach Water Pollution Control Plant Consolidation Project. Before I get started, I just wanted to mention that this was truly a collaborative effort between numerous entities to bring this project to where we are now. Specifically, I want to really thank, we have the EFC, Department of Homeland Security, Don LaCroix and Caitlin Ringwood, DEC, Jim Tierney, who was instrumental in bringing us all together, Governor's Office of Storm Recovery, Paul Zito, Nassau County, Jane Hudak, Ken Arnold, and Vinnie Falkowski. Arcadis, we have Peter Gloss here tonight and his team, who's worked extremely hard on this project. Harris Beach, of course, who's also presenting tonight. We have Jeff Storch. We appreciate all your efforts on this. And of course, the City Council, City Manager Donna Gaden, the City Controller, and our Corp Council, who really put a lot of time in on this. I'm going to be giving a brief overview on the project, background. Then I'm going to turn it over to Peter Gloss, who's the Vice President of Arcadis, who's the design firm on this project. And then the financials are going to be discussed by Jeff Storch, who's the city's bond counsel. Next slide, please. A quick overview. So everybody knows this project must be built. It's required by federal and state law, the plant's discharge permit, and the DEC administrative consent order. Just so everybody knows, the project estimate is $123,095,799 and is fully funded by federal grants. I'm going to repeat that because I was told I should lead in with this before I get into the rest of the presentation. The estimate is $123,095,000 and it's fully funded by federal grants. The FEMA 406 grant award, and actually just to mention as well, to keep it in perspective, the city's budget is $95 million, so this exceeds this project exceeds the city's current budget. The FEMA 406 grant award commits FEMA funding for 90% of the eligible project costs. The GOSHA 10% match commits HUD funding for the required local match to the FEMA 406 grant, and that statement from DISHES, that's called the Project Worksheet 00309, is not a capped grant. It'll be based on actual costs associated with the FEMA-approved eligible scope of work. Basically, that means like if this project is estimated at $78 million, that's our award from FEMA. If it's bid and it comes in at $120 million, as long as we stay within the scope of work, they will pay all of the costs. So that's a very key component with the FEMA projects. Next slide, please. This is just the agenda. You could skip to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, the Western Bays Resiliency Initiative. The Western Bays Resiliency Initiative is basically comprised of 3 projects. It's the Bay Park Conveyance Project, which basically is connecting the Bay Park Sewer Plant, which is currently called the South Shore Water Reclamation Facility, to the Cedar Creek Facility, which has an outfall that goes to the ocean. That project is currently in progress. It's an approximately $500 million project. The second project is our project, which is the Long Beach Water Pollution Control Consolidation Project. That project basically consists of 2 components. One is to erect a 19,000 linear foot force main from the Long Beach plant under Reynolds Channel to the Bay Park Sewage Treatment Plant. The second phase is to convert the existing plant to a pump station. All other ancillary facilities will be decommissioned and will open up about 4 acres of property on the waterfront. And the third is the Point Lookout Sewer Feasibility Study. Currently, Point Lookout does not have sewers. They have like leaching basins and backyards and things like that, which clearly isn't good for the environment. So they've been discussing installing sewers in Point Lookout. Next slide. Benefits of this project. The project will mitigate risk of damage to Long Beach wastewater treatment assets and reduce service loss to residents of Long Beach. It's one of the most regional significant effects that we'll see in our lifetime. It's going to eliminate 70 million gallons of wastewater into the bay. That's really 70 million gallons, just think about that. It's going to eliminate that into the bay. It's going to definitely eliminate nitrogen release into the estuary as well. So it's really going to be a benefit to the ecosystem, to the community. So it's really just a fantastic project. Next slide, please. I wanted to just give a little background of like where we were and how we got to where we are, because this has been in the works for about 14 years right now. The DEC changed discharge requirements for ammonia and NH3 and chlorine. In 2008, the city's state pollution discharge elimination system, or species permit, was modified and new effluent limitations were mandated. We basically had to reduce ammonia output from 23 milligrams per liter to 9.5 milligrams per liter, and we had to reduce TRC, or total residual chlorine, from 2.0 milligrams per liter to 0.5 milligrams per liter. In 2011, the city submitted an engineering report to provide a detailed analysis of the existing water pollution control plant and options available for achieving compliance for both ammonia and total residual chlorine. The report contained a compliance schedule to address ammonia and TRC reduction, as well as several structural equipment deficiencies. Unfortunately, on October 29, 2012, Hurricane Sandy struck and caused extensive damage to the facility, resulting in over $5 million in damage. Next slide, please. In 2016, the city completed the construction of the dechlorination facility to reduce the effluent to 0.5 milligrams per liter. That cost was about $1 million. In June of 17, the DC and city executed an order on consent to address several structural equipment deficiencies. Basically, the order provided the city with two options. One was to treat for ammonia, which is about $180 million at the time, and the other one was to convert the plant to a pump station. Obviously, we chose number two, and that's where we are today. The next slide, please. Basically, accordingly, we basically went with option two, as I mentioned. We entered into an IMA, an inter-municipal agreement, with the county to build a pump station and install the associated force main to divert flow to Bay Park. Under the agreement, Nassau County is going to take over the entire sanitary sewer system. So in 3 years, the city is going to be essentially out of the sewer business. The sanitary sewer mains in the streets, and we won't be in operation of the plant. Under the original financing plan, there was an Appendix H in that plan. At the time, the city was going to be responsible for about $18 million of the project. $12 million was through grants, and $6 million was going to be cash from the city, and the rest was unsecured funds. So, I mean, at the time, we really didn't have a good funding plan, not like the one we have now. And just as a final note there, Nassau County has implemented the design of the force main and the pump station conversion, and both are 100% complete. Next slide, please. So in 2020, we submitted this 406 hazard mitigation program under the FEMA Public Assistance Program. And in March 2022, we were notified that we were awarded $24 million from the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery for the project. And then in April, we were notified that we received approximately $78 million award under the FEMA 406 program. So, in summary, again, I can't stress it enough. All the project costs $123,095,799 will be covered under the FEMA 406 HMP and GOSA grants. That concludes the background. I'm going to turn over the presentation to Peter Gloss. He's the Vice President of Arcadis, to go over the project in a little more detail.
Thank you, Joe. So I'm going to give the engineer's point of view on what the project is all about. It's hard to see, but the project is essentially the conversion of the current plant, which is a treatment plant, into a pumping station. And then the project pumping station will pump the effluents underneath Reynolds Channel and over to the Bay Park sewage treatment plant. The job is going to be built in 2 contracts. Both contracts are currently designed right now. Next slide. One of the components of the project is to do mitigation to the hassocks in the wetlands. As some of you may recall, back in the day, the county used to send sludge out from a sludge loading dock on the hassocks. So part of this project is to restore some of those hassocks in some of those areas that are sort of like, the remaining assets of that sludge loading dock system. So we're going to repair the dock, we're going to clean up the area a little bit, and we're going to do some mitigation for the project, because in order to build the project, we've got to disturb a couple of acres of the wetlands, and so what we want to do is we want to restore those wetlands as well. So we're going to do more restoration than what's called for, just to take care of some, I guess, unfinished business from the county. And then we're going to monitor that mitigation for about 5 years. Next slide. From a permitting perspective, all the major permits have been secured. The DEC permit has been secured. The Army Corps permit has been secured. All the federal permits have been secured. And so the project's in really good shape in terms of permits and approvals. Next slide. And you can't see this, but from a design schedule, the intent is to advertise the contracts in the next coming months, get bids from the contracting community, and proceed with the project. We hope to break ground in early 2023, and we hope to have it finished by the end of 25.
Okay, now we're going to turn it over to Jeff Storch. He's an attorney that works for Harris Beach. He also represents city's bond counsel, and he's just going to go over the financing for the project. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to explain a little bit about how EFC works. It works a little different than normal bond issues. When you do a EFC deal, it's more like a loan. So the city will be authorizing $126 million under the bond resolution, but that money will stay with EFC until the county issues invoices for the money that has already been paid. So what happens basically is the county does the work, the county gets invoiced from the workers. The county then submits the invoice to EFC, and the city draws down on the EFC money to pay for those invoices. So there's actually never any money really being held by the city. It's more of a reimbursable expense. You can go to the next slide. So this, we talked about this project is fully funded by this EFC amount, which the county will cover any excess work, and then we have the 2 grants coming in that will reimburse any money that that will pay EFC off. So it's kind of a convoluted process. You can go to the next one, and I'll sort of explain it again. Okay, so the way it works is FEMA grants are reimbursement grants. So we have to actually spend money to get paid back from from FEMA. So again, I'm going to try and go around this. The people who are working on the project issue their invoices to get paid for their work. They give that to the county. The county then submits those invoices up to EFC. The EFC will then transfer money to the city, which will hold the money to pay off those invoices. Now the city has some outstanding money that they've drawn down from the main state fund, and FEMA will go and retire those monies back up to EFC to pay off the loan. So at any one time, I think Joe talked about, there won't be a substantial amount of money, quote unquote, outstanding, because we're only going to take down money from the EFC pot as we need it. I think you can go to the next one. Let's see, city will continue. Yeah, so the one guarantee for the city on this project is that the county has agreed to any excess costs over the number that we've given EFC, which is this $120 million, will be paid by the city's access to continuing sewer rents. So there at no point in time will the city be on the hook for any of these payments. So the project will be paid from a combination of FEMA, GOSER, which is from the state grants, and then any overage will be covered by the sewer rents. So the city will actually never be short of any of the money for the project. I think you can go to the next one. So the bond ordinance that's in front of you, that will cover the entire project. Again, it's sort of a different animal than a regular bond in that you're authorizing sort of a loan that's up top. I think it's very important to know that you do not pay interest on the loan as long as you haven't drawn down on it. So let's just say day one, there's that $120 million sitting up top. In EFC, we are not paying interest until we start pulling down money from that pot. And then the idea is that as we draw down and as FEMA's money comes back, we just pay it back off again. So let's just use an easy number of $5 million. We need $5 million. The county issues an invoice to EFC. The city takes down the $5 million from that giant loan, puts it in an account that the city has, that the city and the county have access to. Then we get FEMA money, and we take that our $5 million from FEMA money, and we push it back up to EFC, and that debt is gone. We can only do that one time. So that's the idea behind it. This way we have very little interest expense. We've worked out this sort of joint county-city bank account, so the city doesn't really need to get involved in the payment of invoices or the review of the project. It's more of on EFC's sort of bailiwick. But again, it'll keep the city from basically having any debt outstanding at the time more than what they need, and obviously not have to pay interest on it. I think you can go to the next slide. And I think that's it. I apologize. It's kind of it's unusual for what normal projects look like. So we designed it so this, I think, protects the city as much as possible.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. Basically, that concludes our presentation, and I'd like to open it up to questions from the council.
Any questions from the council at this time?
I do.
Mr. Lester.
Jeff, first of all, the question, hold on, let me take this off. I hate it. We will be able to continue charging sewer rent until the interest is paid and everything else is paid. Meantime, the county will be giving us the service and will not be charging rent.
Is that the understanding? I think that's the understanding. Yeah, they cannot start. The agreement we made with the county was they cannot take over our sewer rents until we've basically transferred, right? Until the project is closed down.
My concern is when the county starts, now, once the county starts the sewer rent, they determine the sewer rent. We no longer have any say in that.
I believe so, right? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we briefly went over this yesterday, and we don't know what the county will charge once they take over. That I still don't have the answer to that from yesterday.
I thought maybe Jeff.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Do you know? Nope.
We discussed it. We just discussed the drop in.
Right, Joe, it's Rich Barrios behind the thing there. So we talked about it during the working session yesterday, and part of Councilman Lester's concerns was when the county actually establishes their own sewer rents, what are they going to do? We actually don't know what that is, but we do know that that has to be done by the legislative process. So they'd have to adopt some sort of code or administrative code to set those sewer rents applicable to the district, right? So the way the conversion works is after the construction's done and it becomes a pump station, we basically use that debt service and collect our sewer rents until the city's sewer debt is completely paid off in full. Then it transfers to the county. The county then has to establish its own sewer district. We have to dissolve ours, and that's when they'll set those new rates.
I'm sorry, when you say, Rich, when they establish their own sewer district, is there a limited number of sewer districts in Nassau, or can they just establish Long Beach as a sewer district, or is there only one sewer district? I mean, does anybody know that at this point, how big a sewer district can be?
I don't know that information.
I can look into it. Sewer districts are essentially a creation of municipal bodies. You can resolve to create a new district, whether it be a sewer district, a water district, a fire district. It's just another kind of organizational monster of government. But I can get back to you in terms of numbers and caps, sure.
I guess my only concern is when it is shared with the sewer district, if it's a small enough sewer district, Nassau has to make up what they have lost by not collecting the rents, because we'll be collecting the rents, hopefully not for long, but they have to make that up. I was just wondering if they would be making that up with their sewer rent and without knowing the districts. I understand it's something we don't know at this point. It's something.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lester. I have a quick question regarding the bond authorization. Does this mean that we will have to recognize the full amount on our balance sheet for a few years? No.
No, only what you've drawn down at the time that's outstanding.
That's excellent. Any other questions from the council?
Yes.
Mr. Lester?
Yeah, Joe, and I think this would be you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now.
Roy, can you just use the mic?
I'm sorry. Get right in there. Okay. Joe, right now, the Bay Park sewer water, once it's treated, is put where?
Currently, it goes out into Reynolds Channel, but it's treated.
Back into us.
Correct.
So they put water in, and we dump 70 million?
No, we don't. That's combined. No, we only do about 5 million gallons per day. And the Bay Park plant, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 65 approximately. No, they're definitely the bigger contributor.
Oh, okay.
To
yeah, because that
wastewater
number
and the
was.
estuary. But it's treated. It's treated from our plant as well.
But their treatment is much better.
Their treatment is, yeah, they just put over $800 million into their
Yeah.
facility, so their treatment is absolutely better. We can't meet the problem that we have now is we can't meet the current regulatory requirement to reduce the ammonia from 23 milligrams per liter to 9 milligrams per liter. That's really what's driving this.
Yeah.
For us to have done that improvement, and that's what the engineering study showed, it would have cost, I think, 180 to 200 million at the time. So that's why we ventured down this path where we are now.
Right.
Which is the better path, which is going to get
No
the city
question.
out of
No
the
question.
wastewater business.
And we have to do it. You know, I
And
totally
plus,
have accepted
that's correct.
that.
We're under a consent order with the DC to do the work, correct?
My question, I guess, would be, ultimately, we want it, and I hate to say this, to go out into the ocean.
That's
Yeah.
correct. Ultimately,
Yeah.
and that's why they're doing the first project, which was connecting the South Shore Reclamation Facility to Cedar Creek with the pipeline that's going down Sunrise Highway.
Right.
Because the Cedar Creek outfall discharges into
Right.
the ocean.
Into Jones Beach.
Okay, do we have any questions? Do you have a
but-
question? No questions?
I'm sorry,
Ms. Trustin?
I'm sorry, I was in the middle of a question.
Go ahead,
Karen.
Councilman Lester, please
Okay.
continue.
The pipe under Sunrise Highway, right now, I know when they first went into it, it was a mess. Do you know how far they progressed with that? Because
Yeah, I
that,
think Peter could probably, do you have a little more information on that? Because I think Arcadis is actually working on that project, is that correct?
Yeah, so the pipe under Sunrise Highway used to be an old water main,
Right.
and
They didn't even know it was there. That was the amazing.
Well, you know, it's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
We knew it was there, but it was obviously under a different purpose. So the pipe visually is quite rusty, but the nice thing about that pipe is that pipe was built, you know, over 100 years ago, and the pipe is very thick and strong. And one of the things we did at the beginning of the project was we did a lot of inspection of the pipe, and throughout the entire length of the pipe, the ovality of the pipe, the structural condition of the pipe is really good. And so right now what we're doing is we're proceeding with that project and putting a secondary pipe within that pipe. But to most of our sort of pleasant surprises, the condition of the pipe is actually very good, because the pipe is made very thickly because it was made back in the day.
And it's an iron pipe, all iron?
It is, I'm not a metallurgist, but it's
Right.
like some type of iron that was used by the Board of Water Supply back in the, you know, the early 19th and 18th
And
century.
if there's going to be a delay, if anything delays this, would it be that pipe or would it be our piping to the pumping station?
There shouldn't be any, there's no projected delay to
Good.
the conveyance pipe project. It's actually proceeding quite well. And our project that we're talking about here is ready to bid. We got all the permits and approvals, which is really the thing that really holds most engineering projects up, is getting approvals from all the federal agencies and the state agencies. So those-
Government.
Yeah. So those permits are in hand, and we're ready to go.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Karen.
Councilwoman Trustin?
I just wanted to make a comment. I just want to thank everyone for this. This is a project that's way overdue, and the collaboration on this has been epic. So thank you, everyone.
Do we have any questions from the public? Yes, Mr. Elmer? That way?
Yes, Ray Elmer, 560 West Broadway. This project actually, as I said, has been in existence for about 14 years. And it was really, with Superstorm Sandy, it was the public that really discovered that Nassau County was dumping billions of gallons of the fluid into Reynolds Channel. It was malfunctioning, and the reason it was malfunctioning is because the machinery was old. And it took a superstorm to get funds to address this particular environmental disaster. And yet, our government still kind of comes up with a plan that doesn't recognize that we have saltwater intrusion in the Lloyd Aquifer. We need this water. We're going to send hundreds of millions of gallons of water where we were polluting Reynolds Channel. Now we're going to send it out into the ocean. Well, the ocean will dilute it, and our machinery will make sure that the effluent is in proper form. But we see that it's never in proper form, and actually, will the government ever give us the notice that it's not properly functioned? Has anybody ever gone to somebody fishing off of our fishing pier that maybe you shouldn't be fishing there? So if you trust the government, and actually, I'm just going to say this too, you look where the Navy SEALs are training in San Diego, there's ocean dumping in San Diego. And actually, so all I'm saying is a slight tweak in the project to not pump it out into the ocean, but to pump it to a station that could convert it into water for drinking and irrigation. You still have 2 years to do this, because with all the permits and everything, but I'm just saying, consider pumping it not out into the ocean, but there are plants that, in Albany, New Jersey, and we have all these pipelines. LNG wanted to come in here. We have all these pipelines. All we have to do is turn the direction of the water from that way to this way. And I just say, to consider it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ulmer. Any other questions from the public? Mr. Bachner.
Hi, Scott Bachner, 345 West Pine Street, Long Beach, lifelong resident here. I just want to say this is a generational, lifetime change for Reynolds Channel. Personally, I could say 55 years ago, I used to swim in Reynolds Channel. It was teeming with life. There was so much marine life, and across the bay as kids, we used to play in it. Now my kids are 25 and 27. We have a dock on the bay. They've never swam in it, so we lost a generation. Everybody thought that the outfall pipe, 55 million from Bay Park and 8 million or 5 million from Long Beach, would flow through the Atlantic Beach Bridge into the ocean. Well, the TMDL, which was the Western Bay study done by Stony Brook, proved that it doesn't flow out. So basically what's happening is Reynolds Channel is nothing more than a toilet bowl. It just sits there. So the federal government came in and did these studies and figured out a way, and out of the box thinking by Nassau County, to put that on the Sunrise Highway. To put that out into the ocean to dilute it was the greatest idea that ever happened. Of course, it started at 300 million, then it went to 600 million, then it went to 800 million. But the federal government figured out that we needed it, and the state and the county, and they came up with the funds. This is a no-brainer for Long Beach. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It's not $180 million that Long Beach has to put a new plant in. Basically, what the government said was, we don't want a sewage treatment plant on the barrier island. Basically, we saw what happened with Superstorm Sandy. So this vote here is historic. What you're about to do is change the course of life on the barrier island. The marshes will come back. When I was a kid, there were oyster farmers that had oysters all over that used to clean the channel. And now they're all gone. But the study did say that in 2 years, the bay will regenerate and it will come back. So this vote that you're about to make to bond this, that will cost Long Beach nothing, is the greatest thing to happen. I'd like to thank Joe Fabrizio, because we've been working on this, Adrian and I, and a few other people, for 20 years. And to work with the state and the feds and the county is so difficult. We were thriving on rejection every minute. So Joe, for what you did to put this thing together in concert with all of these agencies. I can't thank you enough for making this happen. I want to thank you guys for this vote.
Thank you, Scott.
Scott, and I want to say, you know, I remember for years you've been pushing this, for years. And, you know, you probably more than almost anybody else is responsible for this. And I want to thank you for that. You know I know I used to fish in this, in Reynolds Channel, and flounders and stuff, and it's been years, and it's going to come back. And thank you.
Thank you. For the next question from the public.
Hello, Adrian.
Good evening. My name is Adrian Esposito. I'm the Executive Director of Citizens Campaign for the Environment. And just to substantiate what Scott said, although the advocates were left out of the historic rendition of what has occurred, that's okay, we're used to it. Citizens Campaign for the Environment, Scott's groups, the Sludge Stoppers, Operation Splash, and the Nations Conservancy started 2 decades ago on a campaign to save the Western Bays. That was the campaign, because the Bay Park Sewage Treatment Plant was discharging 55 million, not hundreds of millions, but 55 millions of gallons per day, and the Long Beach Sewage Treatment Plant is 5 million gallons per day into Reynolds Channel. We advocated for studies. We found out the main source of deteriorating water quality was and is sewage that's discharged there. Today, fast forward, it's fully funded for you to do this project. It's free. We have worked our butts off, frankly, for 2 decades, because the first price tag was $800 million, and it's been circling around that. Today, did I mention, it's fully funded. So this is a project that has meaning not only to the environment, it has meaning to the safety of Long Beach and the mainland. It will allow the wetlands to strengthen once again. Their roots have been weakened by all of the nitrogen loading into those bays. The roots are very shallow. That's one of the reasons so much damage was done by Superstorm Sandy. The fish will come back, the water clarity will come back, the water quality will come back, the shellfish will come back. Why do I say that so emphatically? Because we've reviewed studies throughout the nation, specifically in Florida and other estuary systems, where a sewage outfall pipe was removed from that estuarine system and the ecosystem came back. So we are really excited about this. It's taken 20 years. It is something that really everyone should take credit for. Patience and guidance has persevered here, and it's one of the few times I've seen every level of government and advocates work together hand in hand to have something succeed. And one of the few things we all do agree on is the water quality in our bays. So we are very excited. The Bay Park Sewage Treatment Plant is a state-of-the-art sewage treatment plant with 2 different denitrification technologies that are being added on. So even though the effluent will be rerouted to the ocean, it actually will be much cleaner than going from the bay eventually to the ocean, which is the system we have now. This is not only a no-brainer, it is a game changer. It's an historic moment. It's a legacy project that you guys will leave the next generation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Esposito. Any other questions from the public? Ms. Lake?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. The ammonia and total residue chlorine, I believe the permit number was NY0020-567. It was extremely problematic. I have to go back quite some years to pull out the original, the permit and the supporting documentation. Some of the concerns were staffing. What's going to happen to the current employees who work at the plant? Will they be picked up by Nassau County as well? The other concern was the rents, the water, the sewage. How will it be billed? How much will it will be billed? Who will do the billing? Will it be separate billing, one bill? There were some questions regarding that matter. The other concern was, once this project is completed, it's not a concern, it was just things that were mentioned over the years. Once the project is completed in approximately 2025, it would open up approximately 4 to 6 acres of land, which the thought at that time, it would allow the relocation of the standpipe and the tank. That would open up the door for bayfront redevelopment. So in the background, that was always one of the concerns. Not mine, I'm not saying, but that was one of the methods to allow bayfront to occur. So possibly someone would be able to locate those documents in-house to show what the concerns were regarding the residents. Putting the discharge, the effluents, whatever, into the ocean, who's to say? It's a 50-50 chance. Will it clean up the bay? For decades, so many people, so many residents fished, they ate the fish. There were the cute little blowfish that were there, and yeah.
You threw them out. They were awful.
Okay. Regardless, people still fish there and eat the food. So in the grand scheme of things, I know the project will move forward. Just take certain things into consideration that I have just stated. Thank you for your time. Crystal Lake.
Thank you, Ms.
Long
Lake.
Beach, New York.
Court Counsel Barrios?
Ms. Lake, I think you asked a question about staffing. I believe CSEA President Mooney's here. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's a stipulation in place where no CSEA employee will be displaced as a result of this consolidation. So we're not just offing CSEA employees; they're actually keeping their jobs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the public on this item? Seeing none, this is the first of 5 hearings, so we're going to call a vote.
Yeah, I was going to say, we wanted to vote this out of order, correct? Okay.
Yes.
So this hearing is in conjunction with item number 2 on the calendar, which is a bond ordinance authorizing financing for the costs. Hold on, I need my glasses. For the costs of the construction and reconstruction of improvements to the city's Long Beach Water Pollution Control Plant and South Shore Reclamation Facility, stating the estimated total cost thereof, $123,095,799, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $123,095,799 bonds of said city to finance said appropriation, and further authorizing any amounts received from the United States of America and or the state of New York to be expended towards the cost of such project or redemption of any notes and bonds issued therefore, or to be budgeted as an offset to the taxes for payment of the principal of and interest on said bonds and any notes issued in anticipation thereof. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting. Councilmember Passerly.
Yes, I just want to thank everyone who worked on this really important project. It's been an issue I've been personally invested in for many years, and just so happy to see this happening. And now we're finally going to be able to rid our bay from years of impacts of sewage pollution, many years. So yes.
Councilmember Lester.
I too want to thank everybody involved, and Denise, you really get a lot of the credit for this. You worked your butt off on this, and thank you very much. And everyone who knows me knows how much I'm against borrowing money, but this is a no-brainer. This is absolutely, we're borrowing and we're getting it all back, including the interest. Why can't we get more of these? Yes, I definitely vote yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
This is probably the most significant environmental project that's been done on Long Island in decades. This is a complete no-brainer.
Mr. Bendo, could you check your mic, please?
Sorry, I'll say that again. This is probably the most significant environmental project to take place on Long Island in decades. It's going to improve our quality of life at no cost to us. Yes, absolutely.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
It's my honor to vote yes.
Okay, item passes. We're going to call the next public hearing also out of order. We're going to call...
Thank you.
We're going to call the second public hearing for the purpose of giving citizens an adequate opportunity to publicly present their views on the general summary of the capital improvement program for the 5-year period from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2027. Just give me 1 second to switch the slides. There we go.
What's that? Hello? Okay. Good evening, everyone. You get to hear from me again on another presentation. This is for the 2022-2023 capital budget and 2022-23 to 2026-27 capital improvement plan. Next slide, please. 2022-23 capital budget and capital plan advances projects that improve the health, safety, and quality of life for city residents. The projects address issues in a priority order, making government more efficient and responsive. Projects this year include a continued commitment to roads and drainage, shoreline, transportation, public safety. That's improvements to police and fire assets, buildings, grounds, which is trees, dunes, and fencing, parks, rehabilitation of city parks and playgrounds, equipment, technology, sewer, water, and economic development. Next slide, please. Just want to go real quick through. I'm going to try to go fast for the capital budget process. In January 22, we send a request to all department heads and commissioners to fill out capital project summary forms. Each form contains a department requesting the project category, description of the project justification, and estimated cost of construction. February 2022, the capital project summary forms are due. In March 22, myself, the city controller, and the city manager conduct meetings with the department heads and commissioners to basically vet the projects. Next slide, please. In March, we also, during that same time period, we perform a comprehensive review of the existing available funds from prior capital year budgets that are available and have not been utilized. In April 22, we have additional meetings to prioritize proposed projects. We also select and incorporate capital budget and plan. April 30th, the proposed capital budget / plan is submitted to the city manager and city council. Then it's published. Prior to the public hearing, the plan is submitted to the city clerk and made available for inspection prior to the hearing, and tonight we have the actual hearing. And hopefully the city council will adopt it at the next meeting next week. Next slide, please. The capital plan breakdown, it's broken down into the general fund, the sewer fund, and the water fund. The general fund is like roads, it basically includes projects such as roads and drainage, shoreline, transportation, public safety, buildings, grounds, parks, equipment, technology, and economic development. Sewer fund is the collection system, water pollution control plant, and equipment. The water fund is distribution, treatment plant, and equipment. I'm just going to go through some of the successfully completed projects that we did under the last year capital budget, because I think it's important that everyone see the type of work that we do with the money that we borrow. The first one is asphalt overlays. We overlaid actually 12 streets. There's 10 up there. We just paved Louisiana between Park and Ocean View. On the right, you have a picture above on the right, upper right side of what a street looks like before, and then you can see the finished product after we do an overlay. You can see it results in a nice, clean riding service, and it's probably 1/3 or 1/4 of the cost of actual complete reconstruction. Next slide, please. Another successfully completed project, Boyd north of Pine. This was a project that we designed in-house. The project cost was $888,660. On the left, you see what it looked like before. It was arguably one of the worst streets in the city. On the right, you see what it looks like afterwards. We have all new colonial lighting, LED, new lighting with LED lights that are energy efficient, new curbs, new sidewalks, newly paved road, and a road that actually drains correctly. Below, we have the drainage improvements project. This is $6.1 million that's fully funded by the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. On the left, you have the existing condition on National. On the right is what it looks like now. That road is actually going to be paved probably the week of Memorial Day. That was probably one of the worst chronic flooding areas that the city has. And now, if you've gone down there after rain, even though it's not paved, there's not a drop of water on that street. So I would say the project was a success. Next slide, please. The Long Island Railroad / City Parking Garage. This was completed in the past year as well. It was completed by Carl Walker Construction at $729,000. It was on time and within budget. Anybody who's familiar with that facility knows it was like raining underneath when there was bad weather, and they had rocking slabs. It was, appeared that it was unsafe. So this was definitely a needed project. Below, we have our lifeguard headquarters and comfort stations at New York and Neptune. That was completed just prior to Memorial Day last year, and we just had the dedication on Saturday. It was $3,568,000. On the left, you could see the old lifeguard headquarters at National, which is somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean right now, after Sandy. And we have the new headquarters at Riverside Boulevard that was just dedicated. Next, please. We also have we completed the lining of the pool at the Recreation Center. On the left, you can see the condition. It was pretty bad. There was big, giant holes in the liner. And we just recently, last summer, we put a new liner in, and it looks, came out beautiful. And Renesis, the contractor was Renesis at $114,250. The next project it's called sand screen installation. This is a project that's being undertaken in-house by our skilled labor in the beach maintenance department. They're doing a fantastic job on it. They're basically installing this wall just north of the dune, so the dune doesn't overtake the boardwalk, starting at New York, going all the way down to Neptune. It's a huge project. They deserve a lot of credit. They've been doing this in-house. It's a giant job, so we have money to continue that. They're doing it now, and there's money in the upcoming capital budget for that work. Next slide, please. City Hall facade rehabilitation. This is a project, the contract is Related Services at $681,000. They're basically doing pinning and pointing of the brick all around the building to make it safe. The project's going to be completed at the end of this month. The scaffolding will come down probably by July 4th. Next project. Again, we did do a lot of work, so bear with me. On the right, this is a rendering of our new 1.25 million gallon water storage tank that's going to be built at the same location as the old 1 million gallon storage tank that was demolished. The design is in progress. The schedule for construction probably beginning of next year. As far as the potable water well, we have the bids due. We have $4 million that was allocated in last year's capital budget. The bids are due May 26th to build a new well that goes down 1,200 feet into the Lloyd Aquifer. Right now, 4 out of our 8 production wells are out of service, so this is a critical project for the city. Next, please. And this is another project we completed. It was, well, actually, it's in progress. The contractor is RJ Industries. It's $993,000. Basically, they're going to be covering the open air basins at the water treatment plant with like a PVC line or almost like a tent. And it's basically to prevent the potential for vandalism or contamination of the water supply. So it's a very important project. It should be done by the end of this year. Some other significant projects include ice arena hazard mitigation that's in progress, Martin Luther King Center hazard mitigation, and rehabilitation of the ice arena roof. Next slide. Some highlights of the new plan. This is the work that we're going to be doing in the 2023 capital budget. The general fund, we're asking for $7.3 million. The sewer fund, $600,000, and the water fund, $3.1 million. The total is approximately $11 million. Next slide. So these are the projects that we're going to be working on in the next year with the money that we're asking for in the capital budget. We're going to continue our asphalt overlay program. We're going to be paving Park Avenue between New York and Nevada. This is a street that's in really, really poor condition. We're going to be paving it probably the week after Memorial Day. It's going to be a comprehensive overlay. The street really needs it. The picture on the left is Doyle Street. This is Doyle Street between Chester and Pine. It's arguably one of the worst streets in Long Beach as well. That's a picture of the typical condition on that road. You know, after even a minor rain event, we're designing this street in-house. Our intent is to start construction after September. Another project we're going to be working on is Park Avenue Resilient Connectivity. This is a grant project from the Department of State. We're going to be working on Park Avenue going west from Long Beach Road, and rehabilitating Park Avenue. We're going to hopefully perform asphalt overlay of the road, new curbs, new sidewalks, potentially decorative lighting. So it's another big project that we have in the works. Next slide. The shoreline. This is a really big one. This is it's called the North Shore Critical Infrastructure Protection Project. This is basically the area between the Long Beach Bridge and the waterfront park. Anybody who's lived here a long time knows that it's probably just, you know, it's in complete disarray. The shoreline's falling into the bay. It's subject to erosion. The utilities over there are in bad shape. We received $39,139,000 from FEMA, 100% funding to undertake this project. We're potentially going to be awarding it next month, and it's a 2-year project. The left is what the shoreline looks like now. On the right, we have a rendering of what's going to look like with a new cantilever steel bulkhead. As far as buildings, we have money for the OEM expansion, which is the rehabilitation of this lovely room. We also have money to renovate the ADA bathrooms on this floor, and we have funding for City Hall hazard mitigation and the animal shelter hazard mitigation. As far as parks, the 2 parks that really need some work is Magnolia Boulevard Playground. We actually had to decommission one of the units at Magnolia. It's closed off right now because of some safety issues. So we have $1 million in the capital budget to address that playground, and also Leroy Conyers Park. We're going to take out the shuffleboard shown in that page, in the picture right there, and we're going to put some toddler equipment in that area. Next slide. As far as public safety, for the police department, they've requested new patrol vehicles, which they desperately need, and also technology upgrades. The fire department has requested a command post floodlight vehicle for approximately $350,000. Next slide, please. As far as water, we have funding in there for the sand filter rehabilitation. There's 10 filters that are in need of restoration at the water treatment plant. We also put in money for a design of a new well house, and citywide water meter replacement. That's a very important project as well. All the city water meters right now are pretty much beyond their useful life, and they really need to be replaced. Next slide, please. And basically this project, this last slide is, I think one of the last slides, is this is the sewer project that we just discussed actually. Basically, I think I have a pointer here. If you see, this is the water treatment plant as it exists today. So this is building right here. That's the main building. That's going to be converted to the pump station. So all these facilities, this one, the digesters, all this whole area, this whole lot is going to be decommissioned, and it's going to be open land. So I think just to try to keep that in perspective, all this area now, it's about 4 acres, is totally going to be decommissioned. It's going to be demolished, and it's going to be, be able to be used for some better use. And then on the left, this is the route of the proposed force main. It's going to go from the main building across Reynolds Channel to Bay Park. Next slide, please. So this is a real quick summary. I'm going to go through this real quick. This is the proposed projects that are actually in the capital budget. $800,000 for road reconstruction, $400,000 for road overlays, $100,000 for curb and sidewalk replacement, $675,000 towards the Park Avenue Resiliency Project, $97,000 for transportation auto vehicle location system, $300,000 for beach maintenance department to continue installation of sand screen, $150,000 for canal dredging. That's one that I didn't really have on the slides, but it's something that we've been getting a lot of complaints about. So that $150,000 is basically to commission to do the permits to potentially dredge the Boyd Street Canal. Police and fire is $855,000. I put in another $250,000 for continue rehabilitation of the City Hall facade. What we're doing out right now is just a Band-Aid for the most part. They're going to do a comprehensive study to do more work on the building. We have OEM expansion for $750,000, ice arena bathroom rehab for $500,000, central garage rehab for $1 million, Rehab of city buildings, 150,000. That's just general. Fencing, 100,000. Playgrounds, $1 million. Sewer upgrade, 600,000. Supply well replacement, 300,000. Water replacement, 2,667,000. Water treatment plant improvements for 100, and time management software for 250. So in summary, we're requesting 7.3 million in the general fund and 3.7 million in the sewer and water fund for a total of 11 million. And that's about it. Thank you. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to point out, I wanted to thank you for all your work, and you and the ENA and the rest of the staff on this project. I noticed you did the Excel spreadsheet, which is also posted on the website.
Yes.
Which shows the detail for each item.
That's correct.
I put this on the spreadsheet only today. The council has a spreadsheet which they've had for over a week to ask questions on the capital budget, and a few of my questions were answered. I think one or two are remaining. But my question today was, of the 11 million that you're requesting that we authorize for the capital budget, I thought it was important to note that 5.8 million is reimbursable through grant funds. So when you look at the column on the spreadsheet and it goes to the bottom, it says 11 million for city funding.
Okay.
But of that, we lay out the money and 5 million comes back from various governments through grant funding.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me to confirm it, but.
Right. So when I was thinking about, do I really want to authorize $11 million in borrowing after we're going through $2 million for a truck? What resonated with me was that it's really 5.8 million of that is that we borrow it now, but that we get reimbursed for it.
I have to look in the spreadsheet to confirm, quite honestly. If you want,
I'm not sure of the number.
I believe it's,
Well, I'm not sure of the number, but there are things that we borrow and that we will be reimbursed for them. Like, for one, the park for $1 million, we have a grant for that, the $500,000 for the bathrooms at the ice arena.
Yeah, I just added together from some of the end slides of Joe's presentation.
Yeah, I think it's 1,750,000, I thought.
I'm not sure of the number right now, but.
Yeah, so that's why I was asking maybe on that spreadsheet, right near where you look at the column that says city funding, $11,444,000. Maybe that could be broken down into a reimbursable column and a non-reimbursable column, because then I would feel a lot better about borrowing the funds.
No, actually on the spreadsheet itself, you will see where it's actually, for example, for the $500,000, where it shows that it has $500,000 in two different columns. So you're borrowing $500,000, but the grant is repaying $500,000.
Yeah, that's correct,
It's
Donna.
not, maybe that's not the sheet that's up there, maybe we have to correct it.
Yeah.
But there are, where it does say city funding and it says non-city funding, the amount might be in two places, but that doesn't mean that that's the total amount of the project.
Okay. It's just when I go to the end on the spreadsheet and the column.
Yeah, you really have to look at the sister column that's right next to it on the right, because the 11 million is the money we're asking for. On the right column right next to it, it'll say the non-city funding. Like, for example, hold on one second. I'm going to just give you an example. Number 50.
I guess I'm saying I'm confused.
Number 55 is ice arena bathroom rehabilitation. So we have 500,000 in the city funding column, and we have 500,000 in the non-city funding. In this case, it's a $500,000 grant that we're receiving, but we have to front the $500,000 because it's a reimbursement progress. So we have to list it in some form to show that we're actually putting out the money to 500, but we're getting 500 back.
We're saying the same thing.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, great.
You're just saying the total that.
Yeah, I'm just saying when I look at that, me as a council person, as a fiduciary.
Yeah, I understand basically.
To borrow $11 million, it's not really 11 million. You're borrowing it to get
it back.
Most of it, more than half of it back.
Now I understand where you're what you're trying, okay.
Okay.
One other thing, Karen, last night that Joe and Ina brought up that I thought was very good is that there are funds that can now be used to pay down debt service that.
Yes, that's another
over
a
$1
great
million.
point. The city controller and I spent a lot of time going through the spreadsheet that we created for all money borrowed through from 2015 to the present. Actually, let me just step back. The city controller did a really detailed, comprehensive analysis of all the capital lines prior to 2015, and the council voted, and they found, I don't know what it was, even how much was it, 2 million? It was a couple of millions of dollars, and they were going to be able to utilize to pay down debt service. While they were undertaking that work, the controller and I actually were looking at the projects from 2015 to the present, and we identified a whole slew of lines of funds that we could actually use to pay down debt service, and that's what we went over last night at the work session. Correct.
Okay, what is it very important, as you all are saying, that we found all this money that we have to pay back debt service. That money cannot be used for anything else but to pay for the debt. We borrowed the money for a particular reason, and any money that's left over that we borrowed has to go back to pay the debt. That was a question last night.
Just as an FYI, I was watching the hearing last night at an airport, and I couldn't hear it. Couldn't hear it. Couldn't hear anything.
That's not good.
Any questions from the council?
Yes, please.
Mr. Lester?
Joe, I just want to, because I'm a little confused too, and
Sure.
the way that the spreadsheet is, you end up looking at the bottom and it says city funding 11 million and non-city funding 149 million. I understand what Karen is saying. And it would be nice if there were a way to say, just reimburse, like when you look at the bathrooms, you have two columns of 500,000 each, and people look and say, $1 million for a bathroom, so. But
Yeah.
regardless, the question I have is,
What?
if we vote on this, are we bound for each of these projects? I mean, are we going to say, oh, you guys...
Well, right now, you're voting to authorize the bond, so there's
Yes.
going to be another point in, I'm sorry, the project, authorize the project. You're not actually borrowing the money. That would come at a later step,
But we're
when she's ready to borrow.
We're authorizing the project.
Yes, you're authorizing the project,
The
that's
bond.
correct. Not the bond, not the borrowing.
The borrower.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
We're authorizing the ability to borrow. The individual projects still have to be approved.
That's what I'm not certain about.
Well, no, that's,
So capital plan is a plan. It does not commit the city to issue any bonds. The authorization to fund this project, so this is just to approve the project. And between now and the bond authorization, you have time, and you're committing the city to fund those through approving bond authorization.
So I guess what I'm asking is, if we vote on this, we're approving the OEM expansion.
So
I mean,
theoretically, you can back out of it, but practically, why would you approve this in a capital plan and then would not vote on funding the project?
because all of these projects might not be something that everyone agrees on. I mean, we're being presented with, how many is it, 111 projects? 100, I'm sorry, 1 second.
Yeah,
124.
Roy, you make a great point, and that's why, going through the spreadsheet one by one and asking the questions in the grid and asking the questions of the staff will really help move the ball forward on this. Within the next 7 days, right, before we're scheduled to vote on this.
Yeah.
And we had a working meeting last night to
Yes.
discuss all this.
Which was a really good working meeting, and we did get to ask a lot of questions. But my question, today, right now, was if we vote on this, we are approving every single project here.
And it's not 134 projects. That's how many projects are on that one column where, in other words, they're not voting on those projects. Those have already been approved. It's just the ones in that one column that say 2023 city funding. So it's only, it's not close to 130. It's like 20, possibly. 1, 2. Just the ones in that one column, that's it.
I think, Roy, if you look at the spreadsheet, I think I can see where you see the 124 projects, because it's a running sheet that covers the past.
Yes.
And going forward. But
right, correct.
Last night when we had the working session, we went over the columns. The column says authorized. That means that the bond was authorized but never borrowed. And Roy, where you're looking is unencumbered available. That is where you have almost 124 lines of different monies that have been borrowed over the last 5 years, but the projects were never completed. And then we have, in the next line item, we had the grant-funded projects. And then the next column was the 2023 city funding projects. Those are the projects that you would be voting on for the bond authorization. And then the 2023 non-city funding projects. And those would be grant funded. So like what we said was that, like for the ice arena bathrooms, that we have to borrow the $500,000, submit the receipts, we will be reimbursed the $500,000. The column that you are speaking of, where you see all of the money, is the monies that have been borrowed for over many years but was not spent. And those we identified on the second sheet we gave you, because you see the item numbers that said some of those projects that where money was not spent, we were going to use that money to help pay down the debt.
Well, that's the 181.867 that you figured we had.
No, one of them, it was about $800,000, almost $900,000. That one item, remember, the $1 million was off.
Yes.
And so if you decide that there's a project that you do not want to do, we need to take it off the list.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yeah,
all right.
Like I said last night, you can do an errata on a capital project, but that means the project won't happen.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public on the capital plan? Ms. Lake?
Good evening again, Crystal Lake, Long Beach, New York. Quick question.
Ms. Lake, can you move up to the microphone?
Rent income other 42415, where does that revenue come from?
I think you're talking about the budget, the regular budget?
Yes.
That's the next hearing.
Next one?
Next, that's, yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
All right.
Any questions on the capital plan?
Sure. The meter upgrades, will there be increases to the water and sewer rates? Because the total, it's, I think, 130% charge of total consumption, something like that. So will there be any, it's online. Secondly, the bulkhead project, it will be awarded in approximately the North Shore Critical Infrastructure.
That's correct. It'll be approximately 1 month before we award that project.
And how long after that might the project begin?
Ms. Lake, can you talk into the microphone, please?
Yes.
I'm sorry, as I'm telling you to talk into the microphone. Can you talk into the microphone, please?
Of course. How long before the project will begin? Approximately.
If the project is awarded next month, it's a 2-year project, approximately 2-year project. So it wouldn't start up probably for about 3 months, and it would be finished within 2 years.
Okay, so the other project, the water pollution control plant project, the consolidation, doesn't have to be completed first?
No.
Before that project
No, they're two separate projects.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What are basket court bubbles? Because I saw that on a spreadsheet, and there was approximately $1 million.
Yeah, that was,
What was, okay. That's okay.
I don't want to yell at you. That was a project that was in. That was a project that was in one of the older capital plans. It's not in there anymore. It was removed. That was to enclose the outside exterior basketball court at the waterfront park. That's what that was for, and it was removed. It was never funded. It was never funded. It was just a placeholder. They never borrowed the money, so it was just not really deemed a viable project to enclose it with a bubble. Okay. All right. You're welcome.
There was a mention of park renovations, and I noticed that Leroy Conyers Park was mentioned. I didn't see Sherman Brown Park included or any other parks. Could there be possibly some renovations done there? Definitely it needs an upgrade of something needs to occur. And I think I've answered all my questions thus far. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's $1 million in the proposed capital budget for playgrounds. It doesn't specifically list which playground, even though in this case we designated approximately $750,000 for Magnolia and $250,000 for Leroy Conyers. But we do also, I believe, City Manager Gaden, we have money in CDBG too. We were going to do some work at Sherman Brown Park too. I can't remember how much money we had, but I think we were going to do windscreen, landscaping, and some other improvements there. So we were planning on doing some work over there. Plus, we're going to do some work. We have money from CDBG. We're going to, at the completion of that drainage project at the intersection, we're going to be doing decorative crosswalks at that intersection, like bright red crosswalks like you see all over town, in other areas. We're going to be doing that in Long Beach, like decorative crosswalks at that intersection. Okay? Thank you.
Bathrooms at a playground? Yes. Which one?
I think that's
I'm not quite sure what, honestly, I'm not sure what you're referring to. I apologize. Oh, City Hall bathrooms on the 6th floor, that's in the budget, yes.
The rec? The ice arena? Yeah, the ice arena.
Oh, that's the ice arena bathroom.
Okay, we'll follow up. Thank
Okay.
you. Any other questions from the public on this
Crystal,
item?
if you ever have any questions, you could always reach out to me. Okay?
Any other questions from the public on the capital budget? Okay, no questions?
That's it.
So we can close the hearing?
Okay. The next hearing we're going to call is for a bond ordinance authorizing financing for the costs of a settled claim against the city in the matter of Sinclair Haberman LLC versus the Zoning Board of Appeals of the City of Long Beach, the City of Long Beach, and Scott A. Kemmons as Commissioner of the Department of Buildings of the city, stating the estimated total cost thereof of $75 million, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $75 million bonds of said city to finance said appropriation.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. The last time I spoke on this item, I promised you we'd talk more about it. In April, City Council voted to settle the Haberman matter. As I described at the last hearing, or at the last meeting on this matter, there's two phases left. One being the zoning legislation that we're still working on and anticipate completing later on this year. And right before you today is the bonding for that principal payment, the money part of the settlement of $75 million in the form of a bond. Just some background. Senator Kaminsky came through, helped us out with state legislation that allows the city to bond for up to 30 years on this, which is helpful. So that way the city can at least evaluate the best path forward. With regard to the rest of the bonding, I can hand it over to Jeff Storch as far as the specifics of it, but generally this is just to bond for the cost of that payment. So if you have any questions, you can ask and Jeff can take over.
Do I have any questions from the council on this item? Any questions from the public? Okay, seeing none. We'll close the hearing.
Okay. Back in order now. Starting at the top with the public hearing for purpose of giving citizens an adequate opportunity to publicly present their views on the general summary of the proposed budget for the year July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023.
Okay, so this is the second hearing, I think, on the budget. Do we have any questions from the council? I saw the grid is up to about 80 some odd questions from the council that has been answered over the past week, few weeks. So thank you to the staff for helping clarify all those questions. I know it was a lot of work. Do I have any questions from the public on the budget? Ms. Lake. And all the questions that the council has asked is posted on the website.
Good evening again, Crystal Lake, Long Beach, New York. The rental income other, where does that revenue come from? I believe it's 42415.
Hello? Yeah, you can hear me. So that rental income other comes from the concessions on the boardwalk, tennis courts, and we have some other small rentals around the city.
Any other questions, Ms. Lake? No. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the public? Legislator Ford?
I'll be brief. Good evening. Denise Ford, Long Beach. I didn't get a chance to read all the questions that your city council had proposed, but maybe you could explain why, like with the general fund, with the adopted and the proposed budgets, in regard to the various departments, I look at, like, for the city manager and the city controller, both of them have substantial increases in their budgets. Because I couldn't find any details. I'm sure that there's a reason,
So,
but yeah, what is the reason?
We asked that we duplicated that actually in the spreadsheet a few times.
Sorry. I should've. Sorry about not
No,
reading
it's
that.
understandable.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah. And also then, I guess, well, you're looking, because even when you look at publicity, you increased 107,000, but yet the lifeguards, which we desperately need, why is there a decrease in the amount of money allocated for lifeguards? And then for celebrations, there's an increase of 100,000, more than 100% on that. So I was just curious, only because I know that we are looking, to be very fiscally prudent, in regard to the spending with the city and what we allocate our money for. So, the residents are looking at an increase of, I think, on an average of $216, and with the increase in the beach passes. So I'm just curious why there are increases in all the departments, especially some of them that stand out, rather than trying to rein in some of the spending and keeping the costs down.
Okay, so in the city manager, my new contract was $203,000 plus $17,000 in like a retirement. So that's the 220, where it was 190 the prior year. And then the 150, then everything else balances out. The public relations, I believe that one department has less, the public relations salary. It might have been central admin. We moved him to public relations. So it's a decrease in one department and an increase in another.
So I guess I didn't see the details on the website, and may be my fault. So then the $485,000 increase just in your line alone, is that because
Say that again.
On the city manager, A1210.
It's the contracted services budget line for $450,000.
Right.
Ina answered that was for M3, O'Melveny, and CMA.
Yes.
So this actually includes the cost of a lot of the outside counsel that the city has hired?
Yes, but the revenue for O'Melveny and M3, we get reimbursed by FRB. So we have the revenue and then we have the expenses.
Okay, all right, so then the increase then includes that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, and then for the Comptroller, which is a sizable increase as well, it stood out.
It's the project management for the executime and fixed assets modules of Munis, GASB 87, and GASB 87 new lease accounting pronouncements, and that's all related to the Office of the State Comptroller's recommendations that we implement those systems. I did hear you mention the letter from the Office of the State Comptroller last evening, that we were going to be sending a response. I was wondering if we could get that letter before we vote on the budget next week?
Of course.
Thank you.
Yes.
So close.
And any other questions from the public? Okay, we'll close the hearing.
Okay, and just a note, since it's budget related, as noted at the end of the agenda, that the city clerk has presented to the council the letter of review formed by the Office of the State Comptroller within 10 days of filing of that report.
Got it. Thank you.
And finally, our last public hearing is a local law amending Subpart C of related acts related to the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C.
Who's speaking about this item? Okay, we're at an hour and a half. We can do this.
So this vote is to allow council to pierce the cap. If the council decides to, you can still decide not to, but that gives you that opportunity to do so if you decide to vote on the budget. Within the cap increase was under $1 million, and we had over $3 million increase in the budget, so therefore we had to go over the cap. And to put things into perspective is inflation was over 6% for the same period of time, while cap is only 2%. And we have a lot of expenses that are tied to the inflation as well. On another hand, we also have, this is also a result of city relying on borrowing for a separation pace in the past. So this year and for many years, in the future, in the immediate future, city residents will be paying for the past retirements. For example, in this budget, we are funding debt service of over $2 million to pay for the old separation pays that were borrowed versus paid out of operating budget. If that was not the case, we could have stayed under the cap.
So again, you're saying if we didn't have to pay these separation payouts from the past, we would have stayed within the tax cap. Is that correct?
Accurate, yes.
Any questions? And we can't borrow for it, right? Any questions from the council?
Yeah, I just think it's worth noting for people to understand something about the tax cap. So the tax cap, the way it's set up is, the cap is the amount of inflation or 2%, whichever is lower. This year, for a city, for a municipality on our fiscal year, which is July 1st to June 30th, the inflation tax cap was 4.72%. So basically, our tax increase is in line with the inflation increase. But because it exceeded the 2%, the state 2% limit kicks in. So that's why we're having to pierce it, because we need to do the inflation amount. So just to understand something about how the tax cap works. The other just tidbit of information that's important to note is, for the first time in a long time, we will not be borrowing any money for separation payments. We've been borrowing several $1 million a year for a while. That's money you're paying back and your kids are going to be paying back. This year, we stopped doing that. So there's a lot of good things in this budget.
Thank you, Mr. Bendo. Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public on this item? Seeing none?
Okay. On to the regular calendar. Item 1 is a local law amending Subpart C of related acts related to the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law 3C. A hearing has been held on this item already. Item 2 has been called and voted on. Item 3 is a bond ordinance authorizing financing for the cost of a settled claim against the city in the matter of Sinclair Haberman, LLC, the Zoning Board of Appeals of the City of Long Beach, and the City of Long Beach, and Scott A. Kemmons, Commissioner of the Department of Buildings of the city, stating the estimated total cost thereof of $75 million, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $75 million bonds of said city to finance said appropriation. A hearing has been held on this item already. Item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a donation for a new sign for the Long Beach Ice Arena.
Who's going to speak on this? Mr. Brand.
I guess this one's probably one of the simpler ones that you have to digest tonight. Pretty self-explanatory. Just a brief background. Harrison Davis is the owner of the gym, or our tenant on the second floor at the ice arena. He had approached me about wanting to put a business sign on the outside of the building. Further conversation took us to looking into a collaborative effort to replace the old Nathan sign that's on the outside of the building. It has been there probably since the 1990s. If you haven't seen it, it's probably been covered with a vinyl sign with either duct tape or glue, or what we've been using to hold it together for quite some time. He got a quote together, enlisted the Long Beach Lightning, our primary hockey tenant, in the building, and came up with the idea of putting a sign on the building that was not only for his business, but a sign that has the city logo, City of Long Beach Ice Arena, and then the two logos of those groups that are paying for it to go below those. City Manager Gaden and Corporation Council Berrios were nice enough to remind me that before we can accept the donation, it's needs council approval, so that's why we're here.
Okay, any questions from the council? Any questions from the public? Okay.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing budget amendment to the general fund budget.
I'm not sure, I don't have that on the phone.
She's getting her steps in tonight.
I think we're going to put your name over there on
Yeah.
the seat right next to the microphone. We'll put a little plaque for you.
This resolution is just a formality for the city council to accept donation from the LDC. It's a pass-through donation. LDC received it from the PSNG, and in order to deposit it and put it in our records, we have to have your approval to accept it. And well, at the same time as we're accepting this donation, we are increasing revenue in the donation line, and also recognizing the fact that this money will be used in the Youth and Family Services department budget for expenses that are geared towards the Youth and Family Services. And that was the purpose of the original grant.
Please extend our thanks to PSCGLI. This was very nice of them. Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public on this item? Okay.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase 2 vehicles for the city's police department through a New York State Office of General Services.
Good evening, Mr. Walsh, Commissioner Walsh.
Good evening, everyone. I don't know, is this on? Yeah. So this is actually just a switch for us. We had originally designed to purchase 2 F-150 police interceptor trucks. We ordered them last year under capital projects. Supply chain, those vehicles are still not built. So we need new vehicles for this summer. We've identified 2 Ford Interceptors that are fully outfitted, meaning they already have lights, sirens, and the necessary connections for our radios to be plugged right in. So these are off of a state bid, and it will actually result in approximately a $17,000 change in this year, $17,000 savings in this year's capital project, actually in last year's capital project approval, or the money that we were supposed to spend on the trucks.
Thank you. Any questions from the council on this item? Mr. Bendo?
So are these hybrids, or are these?
No, they're not hybrids. We're not comfortable purchasing hybrids right now. I've spoken to some people over in the New York City Police Department who use the vehicles, as well as someone I know who works in their vehicle repair. The hybrids do not have a very good track record for lasting right now. When that technology gets more perfected, I'm more than willing to even look at that. I'm even willing to look at electric vehicles to reduce overall expenses for our city repairs, because they don't have brakes, they don't have transmissions, they don't have oil changes, and everything's done by a dealer pretty much. So we're looking at those things, but we just don't feel comfortable yet till the technology gets a little further.
What year are these?
2022.
Okay. Now, the reason I ask is when I looked on the Ford website for the police vehicles, it was saying that they make hybrids. They didn't even list an option with a motor.
They absolutely
No, I'm just saying,
yeah.
might be the way they presented it on the website.
Yeah, so these vehicles were our state bid vehicles. The vendors themselves purchased them. They were built to Ford specifications for the police interceptor vehicle, and they've been upfitted the way we want them. The only thing we pretty much have to do is stripe them and put in our radio.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public? No questions.
I think we went for the next one.
Okay, item 7 is a resolution authorizing budget amendment to the general fund budget.
That's why I didn't sit down. Okay, so this, I just want to open it up so I don't miss anything. So this resolution, we had an unanticipated increase in our revenues this year. They came from our parking summons activity as well as the amnesty program that we put out to get outstanding fines and penalties paid for through our parking violations. Instead of building this money into operating expenses for next year, we took a portion of that increase in revenue, and this resolution will put it into the lines so that these particular items can be purchased. Would you like me to go through item by item to explain what they are and how and what they're for?
Council?
If you understand it, I don't have to. If you don't, and you want me to give you a full explanation as to what we need it for, I can do that.
What is the net gain in productivity or performance from
Well,
these
I'll just
items?
go through piece by piece. So we have two trailers. The first item A is All Traffic Solutions Radar Alert. Those are the traffic trailers with radar inside of them to do traffic surveys as well as messaging around the city. You'll see them right now. We have two. We've come to quickly realize with all the construction and everything that goes on in the city that that's not nearly enough. We really need 6. We figured we'd get 2 more. See if we could do it with that to have 4 in total. So now we'll be able to tell you when the Loop Parkway Bridge is out, while still enabling us to do traffic surveys as well as doing notifications for the construction and whatever else that we need around town. The portable license plate readers, we just experienced a situation where every vehicle that we had that had license plate readers on them were broken. So what we did was the vehicles weren't in for service. So what we did is this is a portable a license plate reader that when these go down, we could take it, we can put it in any vehicle that we need, and we can still carry on with the work of the police department. The Signalscape Star Witness, this is the video interview room that we use down in the detective division when we're interviewing suspects for crimes or arrested persons while they're giving confessions. We've recently run into technological failure there. We've been able to kind of spit and tissue it, if you will, to coin a phrase, but this is an upgrade or a technology refresh at a modest cost to put that into service more stable once again. The boots is just additional boots. We've also identified as part of this a lighter weight, less expensive boot that we can deploy more quickly. It also has replacement parts and the tools to put the boots on and take them off as well. Everbridge is the telephone notification system that we use in the police department to notify our members of the department for overtime and other necessities. It was integrated into our operations last year, and this particular piece of software is much more user-friendly and much more flexible than the one that the city currently has. Once we get this actually rolled in for us, it's the city's intention right now to roll back onto Everbridge and off of what's called the Red Alert system that we're using right now. Lexipol is the policy and procedure subscription service. Our current policies and procedures, while the ones that we've put in place while I've been here are up to speed, there are lots of them and they're all out of date, as well as our rules and our department rules and regulations, which are very old. So what we've done here is we identified a company, a national company, there's only 2 of them. This is the one that's primarily used in New York State to upgrade all of our policies, procedures, and our rules manual as well. This will reduce risk for the department. It comes with training as well for the officers online, and it actually has the ability to track the training and assign trainings to each officers each year. It also comes with services that will keep our policies and procedures up to date as the law changes. As we all know, there's been a lot of changes with regard to the law enforcement and police reform. This particular service keeps us up to speed on everything. We're also looking into right now with Corporation Counsel's office as to whether or not this could be a savings on our insurance for reduced risk and liability. So these are all, that's a very positive piece of this. It certainly will reduce liability for the city because our policies, procedures, and the training for the officers will be up to speed.
Thank you, Commissioner. Does Lexipol focus solely on the police department?
Lexipol is primarily focused on law enforcement agencies only, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Bendo, did you have a question?
I do, and I hope I'm reading this wrong, but I'm wondering if the resolution is incomplete. We have 2 resolved clauses which allow us to buy the radar alert sign and the Lexi pole. We do not have a resolved clause in there that allows us to buy the other 4 items. So it seems like we may have an incomplete resolution.
So what it does is it resolves that you can buy them, but it moves the money only into 2 accounts. So the money's going to get moved into machinery and equipment and fees for services,
I understand
which cover
that.
both of those items.
Because the
Ina?
total amount of money moved does equal 6 pieces, but there is nothing in the resolution that allocates the account for the other 4 items.
Yeah, B,
I'll let
C,
Corporation
D.
Counsel.
B,
Yeah, I'll let
C, D, right?
Right, so the 2 resolved paragraphs in the resolution are specifically for those 2 procurements which trigger the council's vote. So over $20,000, and as you can see, one is a piggyback off of a state contract and the other is off of a consortium. So we need the council's authorization for those 2 purchases. The remainder of the purchases are within the procurement policy and can be purchased outside of the council's purview.
That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Yes.
For the subscription service, is that, that 45,000 plus there, what is that time period over the course?
So the initial startup fee is approximately $13,000. There's $16,000 fee for each year. It will give us 3 years of total coverage. So, and then it would go on to operating expenses after the 3rd year. It will give us enough time to get fully up to speed, to see what they are actually providing for us in a use. It's different when you get a presentation and you talk. Look, I talked to 3 organizations on Long Island that actually use them. One was Rockville Center, one was Malvern, another one was out in Suffolk County, to see if they like them. They do like them, but I didn't want to do something longer than that. So I wanted to give us enough time to actually know whether or not this is a service that we want to continue with, and at the end of 3 years, we can either turn it into operating and come back and put it into operating expense, or just do away with the service.
Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public on this item? No questions.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase a fire department ladder truck.
Commissioner Miller?
Miller and Chief Kimmons. Chief?
Thank you. I stand before you again requesting that the city replace its current 2008 Ferrara ladder truck. This truck operates as our primary response vehicle for the city of Long Beach and its contracted districts. As of this date, the truck has been out of service for the last 49 days and counting. After an exhaustive and comprehensive search by the truck committee for the best piece of equipment suitable for the needs of the residents, and a majority vote of the fire board, it was determined that the Pierce Velocity chassis, 4-door aluminum cab, 100-foot mid-mounted tower ladder at a cost of $2.115 million under the HGAC consortium bid would best serve the city of Long Beach and its residents, and I request that the city council purchase such. Thank you.
Any questions from the council on this item? Mr. Bendo?
I have a procedural question. I guess, I don't know if it's a corporation council question or a comptroller question. So right now, there's no funding for the truck and no borrowing for the truck's been approved. Can we approve it without any funding? And the other question I guess I got is we had a public hearing for the bond for this truck at the last meeting. Why wasn't the bond put on this agenda? Wasn't there a?
No.
Oh, did I get the bond wrong? It's possible.
Okay. Comptroller Resnick?
Sure. So funding for this purchase will be made available upon approval of the corresponding bonding authorization or as otherwise permitted by law. It's going to take some time for the truck to be built. once it's built,
Yes.
right? So once it's built, my office will explore the most financially responsible way of funding it. Would it be either through the lease or through the bonding? We'll decide upon it at the time when we'll have to come up with the money. We had discussed it amongst ourselves, the fact that it's $2 million and we don't have a bond authorization, or we don't have anything borrowed to pay for the truck. But I believe that it was discussed with the vendor that based upon this resolution that reads like that, they will accept the purchase order. Am I correct, Rich?
Well, the purchase order, yeah, it would be enough to bind the city and proceed in the agreement. Yes.
Okay, so the truck takes 24 months to build, and we're also looking at a FEMA grant. FEMA will open up the window for us to apply for a grant to get up to $1 million to help pay for the truck, and that opens up in the fall. And so it's will be on the capital budget, but it won't be on the capital budget for a couple of years because it takes at least 24.
But the answer is yes, we can approve
Yes.
it without having the funds on hand. I just
Yes.
wanted to confirm that. Okay, that's fine.
And there could be multiple ways to finance it.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the council on this item? Ms. Treston?
I just have, can everyone hear me? I just wanted to make a comment more than a question. There's been a number of back and forth on this ladder truck, and a majority of this council has implemented and expects changes from the old way of doing business. There are to be expected a number of bumps along the way. We have asked for materials and paperwork that prior council members did not. The residents and taxpayers are our priority. The health and safety of everyone that lives here and visits is paramount. We have met with the fire department. Last year, Mike Delory sat on the fire board of fire commissioners, and currently Councilman Lester represents the city council in that position. This is a step in our ability to communicate between each other. The changes that we are expecting throughout all the departments come in excruciating increments. Sometimes it's messy because we're requesting information to make educated decisions that staff has not been asked before. I look at what best is for our community holistically. I also understand the dynamics of our municipality and previous political agendas. Politics has no place in running a city. It's going to take a number of years for all of us to begin to trust each other. The new way of working and the decisions that have to be made. Requesting equipment, thinking out of the box, doing things in other ways comes with practice and a willingness to actually do the work. We are all living in the same space. I appreciate the efforts everyone has put in. The landscape of Long Beach is changing. Our density is increasing, and it's increasing vertically. Having a functional ladder is part of keeping our community safe. There should never be a day that we are not fully operational. In hindsight, should this ladder have been ordered years ago? I am not a firefighter, but I'd like to think I have common sense. And this should have been in someone's budget at some point in time before it came to this council. If it was and nothing was done, then that's a disgrace. Today, the responsibility falls upon us. Once more, we are working to change the way things are run around here. We all live here, some of us work here, and our children go to school here. We are committed to looking for funding for the ladder after, I hope, a unanimous vote to bond for the purchase. We are more than a beach. We are actually a city, and we need to continue changing the way we think in order to function and to be the best city that we possibly can be. Financial institutions, state leaders are commending our changes. Let's not stop. Let's do the work. Let's get this done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Treston. Any other questions from the council?
Yes.
Mr. Lester.
Last time we had a work session on this, we talked about the fact that for 2 years we will be without this ladder truck, at least 2 years. So we talked about what it would cost to repair it, what was the matter with it, and I see here now a lot of things are the matter with it. I also see that it was plagued with constant repairs since Hurricane Irene and Superstorm Sandy, yet we did not do a supplemental claim outside of one item although we were insured for this. I'm hoping that doesn't happen again because we pay a lot of money for insurance and this truck should have been replaced after Sandy. It was submerged, or not completely submerged, but enough so that there were enough salt water to, as it says right now, have been plagued with constant repairs since Hurricane Irene and Superstorm Sandy. This shouldn't have gone on for this many years. But right now, I did ask what it would cost to get this in working condition for now, because 2 years is a long time, or more than 2 years, to be without a ladder truck. I have not gotten an answer to that yet. I'm hoping we can get an answer soon. We also, last time we had a work session, there was talk about renting a truck or even buying a used one for the time being. I don't know where we are with that, but I do think if it is as urgent as we are being told, that we should not just ignore it for the next 2 years. I do not like the process that we were used to buy this, and I'll be honest about that, and I have been honest about that the entire time. I like a bid process. I don't like going to one particular vendor, and that's the problem with this particular bid. But my concern right now is the next 2 years, and how are we addressing that?
After the work session, Mr. Mueller, he told us that he did in fact have a truck that we could purchase. He also stated that he would do for free, he would examine the trucks that we have. We're working that out right now. The fire department has to go and look at a truck to make sure that the truck that he's offering us, they can use. And we will go from there. So you will hear something from us within the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Mr. Bendo.
Councilman Lester brought up the process, and I think this, yes. And so there's probably something we should just talk about there a little bit. The process most volunteer fire departments use, and our volunteer fire department uses it, is they kind of pick a truck, submit it to the governing body, and if it's through, there's government consortiums where a bunch of governments get together, form a consortium, and you could buy at supposedly a discounted rate through those. And that's the process our city's been following. The other process is you send it out for a bid. That's typically not the way the city has done it. And we buy lots of things through consortiums. We bought an ambulance a few weeks ago through a consortium. These police cars that we're talking about tonight are being bought through a consortium. We buy all kinds of stuff through consortiums. But, Councilman Lester's raising a point about the process. That's fine. And that's a conversation we can have, is what kind of processes do we want to use going forward for major purchases. I think the fire department got a little taken aback because they said, here's the fire truck we want to purchase. And we started peppering them with lots and lots of questions. Probably not something they've been used to in the past, because we're certainly not fire experts. But maybe that's why we were asking lots of questions for a $2 million purchase. In fact, one of the interesting things that came out of it is, after a bunch of the back and forths and bringing in kind of an outside expert into the process, we actually added features into the truck. We actually put additional features and equipment into the truck, which actually raised the price to make the truck more functional for the long term. So in some ways, I guess all that back and forth had did have some positive impact, because now if this passes, they'll get a truck with even more features than it would have been otherwise. But there is a question about how do we want to do these things going forward. You know, I mean, the fire department did what they typically have done in the past. Is that the way we want to keep doing things going forward? That's a conversation, but that's a conversation that needs to take place with the commissioner and the chief and the board of fire commissioners and all the other principals to decide how we need to purchase equipment going forward, because we're going to need to purchase, a lot of our equipment's old, we're going to need to purchase additional ambulances and fire trucks in the near term, in the coming years. So that's a conversation we can have. This was kind of, I think, a learning experience for both sides. It's, I think we may have set a higher bar for information than perhaps previous councils have. And, you know, we on the council perhaps wasn't as cognizant of the process that our fire department has used for a long time. So, you know, it was a series of iterations back and forth, and that got us to where we are tonight. I think, I'm not going to speak for the whole council, for myself it was certainly a good learning experience. I think, like I said, we set an expectation with what we expect going forward, because, like I said, as the fire truck issue, the constant back and forths were going on, when they needed the ambulance, that sailed right through, because they knew what we were going to expect, what we were going to be asking, and we got that information, and the ambulance went through no problem. And we bought the ambulance through a consortium. So, like I said, I'm just trying to give you some of the background of how we got to where we are. But, you know, as far as Councilman Lester's concerned about the process, that's a conversation we can have about going forward, how we want to do things. And it doesn't just apply to, you know, fire trucks. And it's how the city in general does major purchases, capital purchases. So I just wanted to fill in some blanks there for some of the, I guess, the public on how we got to where we are tonight.
Thank you, Councilman Bendo. Any other comments or questions from the council? Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Mr. Hodge.
James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street, here in this great city. Just before I move on, I'd like to just take a moment of silence. Part of my time for those that were tragically killed and injured and affected in Buffalo. I'm looking to do a prayer vigil soon, so all of you probably will be hearing about me putting it together, would need your help. I wanted to stand as Commissioner Kimmons and Commissioner Miller and these fine firemen and firewomen do such a fine job. As a resident and a taxpayer in this city, I stand with them as they selfishly do what they do to make sure all of us stay protected. In a city of 35,000 swelling in the summer to about 40, they're doing training and volunteering themselves day after day to make sure we're protected. I say to the city and to whoever sees this video all over the world, whatever grants we can utilize for the fire department, I think that they're some of the greatest heroes in our land, that they can volunteer every day to run in while people are running out. I feel like if there's $5 million or $8 million, whatever we can do to get a ladder. I'm sad to hear that a truck that went through Irene and Sandy, when houses and buildings got insurance money and rebuilt and redone, that we still have faulty wires and doors for safety equipment to keep us safe. They will use whatever they have to the best of their ability to keep us safe, but we should have all, prior administrations, should have been doing what they could do, and this current administration, I plead with you. I don't beg very often, but I beg now for you to look. I know they may have a fireboard, but you can look yourselves too and give them different pointers on what they can do to get even more help. And I ask the city that we do what we can do to help our fire department, because it's not until maybe someone utilizes them that they understand maybe sometimes how important they are. They go through strenuous training, much training, and I appreciate all of them and what they do. Saved many people in my family and friends throughout my lifetime, and so I'm honored to know them, and I'm always appreciative of the auxiliary police officers too, which I was one. And again, as a former animal warden, I did a lot of work. While I was getting cats and dogs, they were saving us all, the fire department. So again, and I don't want to mention anything about fire and not mention, I'm in my closing, I don't want to forget to mention one of the greatest heroes to come out of Long Beach, the late Harry Ford, as his wife is here, and we celebrate his life and legacy and what he's done for so many. So again, please help get this ladder and many more ladders after this.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Mr. Hodge, you know, it sort of resonated with me when you just said, "I stand with them." And what I'm hoping for in this room is that we all stand together. We may have differences, we may have different viewpoints, but we all know that residents in this city are hurting, can't afford to live here, and we have to face them every day. So every purchase is important to us. And again, after this, I hope we can learn that it was a little rough, but it's not I stand with them, it's we stand together. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Cummins? Commissioner Cummins?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank the council for the exercise they put us through. Like Mr. Bendo said, it was a learning experience for everybody, and as the ambulance went through, a lot smoother. I think, obviously, you guys and us will get together and talk about the purchasing procurement policy moving forward, because we all want to be together on this, like you said. But I need to take a moment and thank the members of Ladder 2, the truck committee, who spent over a year of their own time working on this truck, going all over the island, looking at vehicles, having multiple meetings, and on their own time, not getting any remuneration for any of their time. And they need to be commended for the hours they put in. And I say thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, any other comments or questions on this item? No more questions.
Item 9 is a resolution authorizing budget amendment to the general fund budget.
Good evening again. This is a resolution authorizing a budget amendment to increase the asphalt overlay budget by $362,208. In 2019-2020, PSE&G performed electrical upgrades on Park Avenue between New York and Nevada. In lieu of performing permanent restoration, the city agreed that it would undertake the work as part of a comprehensive overlay project that would take place after all the utility upgrades on Park Avenue were completed. PSE&G agreed to compensate the city $362,208. We're finally at that point and ready to pave the road. Work is scheduled for the week after Memorial Day.
Thank you. Any questions from the council on this item?
Yes, please.
Mr. Lester?
I'm trying to figure out the mathematics here. The total cost is $469,000.
I think that's the next item. Item 10. You're on item 9.
I'm sorry, what?
We're on item 9.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was on 10. Okay. So this item 9, we have 362, which will go to item 10.
Yes.
Okay.
They're related. Yes.
Okay. So I'll wait until you call item 10, and then I'll ask the questions.
No problem.
But it is the 362 that's going there.
Correct. That's leading into the next one. Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions from the council? Okay. Any questions from the public on this item? Okay.
Item 10 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the contract for asphalt overlay work at various locations throughout the city on an as-needed basis.
Okay, this is a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the contract for asphalt overlay work at various locations currently held by Road Work Ahead, Inc. The original amount authorized by Resolution 10621 on July 6, 2021 was $469,400. We spent a total of $200,000 to date, and therefore we have approximately $269,400 available. The cost of the overlay of park, which we New York to Nevada, is going to be $474,444. Therefore, we need to exceed the original amount approved.
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Sure, good.
Gentlemen, can you, and ladies, can we just be a little quiet so we can all hear? I appreciate it so much. Thanks.
The cost of the overlay of park between New York to Nevada is $474,444. Therefore, we need to exceed the original approved amount of $469,400 by $208,044 to undertake the Park Avenue paving project. Funds are available in the capital budget for the proposed work. $362,208 is going to be reimbursed by PSE&G, and the work is scheduled after Memorial Day. Basically, we're exceeding the value of the authorized amount by the council from a year ago.
Right. So we're short 208,000.
Correct.
Right now. Okay. Now you also say funds of 150 are available, but that is towards the 208 or not?
The 150,000 that's available, it's towards the 208, but we can't spend the 208 unless the city council authorizes us to exceed the original contract value of $469,400.
Right. But what I'm trying to determine, so of the 208, you have 150, so you're 58,000 short.
Well, in total, we're 208,000 short.
But you have, and that's where I'm confused. You have, it says, funds in the amount of 150 are available in account number H1, 02. So you have 150 of the 208 that you're short.
Right. We have the money. We just can't spend it.
No, we're, once you take that 150, you're short 58,000.
Correct.
Okay. And you have an additional 362. So at the end, we'll be left with 304 for other asphalt?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to, so we have 304.
Yeah, the problem is this is another situation where we have to put the money out first and then get reimbursed for it.
Right, but it will be an additional 304. And do we have that much asphalt? Looking at the city.
We have plenty, yes. I could do asphalt overlays till the end of time.
So we have 304,000 more to spend on asphalt.
Yes, correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. All
Great.
right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public? No questions.
Item 11 is a resolution to schedule a special meeting of the City Council for Tuesday, May 24th, 2022.
We have a lot going on, right?
Yes.
It's for the budget, so we can vote.
Budget and capital plan.
Budget, is so we can vote for the budget and capital plan and policies. So we'll see you next Tuesday as well. Any questions from the public or the council?
No.
Okay.
Item 12 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a inter-municipal cooperation agreement with the County of Nassau to receive fundings for the purchase of an office trailer and related items.
You want to talk for? Yeah. Did she leave?
Okay, so just bring everyone's attention back towards there was an IMA similar to this last year, around the same time. The IMA is essentially to purchase a trailer for the fire department. We ended up doing some due diligence and realized that the IMA we signed and the funding therein was insufficient to cover the cost of the trailer that we wanted to get. So through the hard work and diligence of Legislator Denise Ford, who I think left, thank you for all the help, if you can still hear us. But the funding will be increased from $35,400 to $78,000 total in order to purchase those new goods in connection with the project, including that trailer. So with that, any questions from the council?
Any questions?
Just one.
Okay.
Have we found that trailer yet? I know we were running into a problem finding an adequate trailer.
I'm sorry, have we found it, you said?
Yes.
Yes, purchasing department has been working with the fire department. We've identified the trailer we'd like to purchase.
Okay, and that basically, so that's all will be funded?
That's correct.
Yeah.
It'd be in the form of reimbursement, just like the last resolution.
Okay, and how long until we actually have it?
It all depends on the county. Once you pass this resolution this evening, we will sign it and then get it back to the county. It has to go through their process, and then we'll know more after it goes through their process. Once it's complete, hopefully within a couple of months.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the public on this item? No questions.
Item 13 is a resolution authorizing publication for a hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding motor vehicles and traffic. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held June 7th at 7 p.m. Item 14 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend an existing agreement with Passport Labs, Inc., formerly known as Complus Data Innovations, Incorporated.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
So Complus is our vendor for our parking management system. They are our handhelds. They do all of the management and billing for our summonses, and they integrate themselves into our court system for us to collect our fines and send out late notices and things like that. Basically, the amendment or the authorization in front of you is so that we can enter into secondary collections. One of the things that has not happened here, ever, is that when people don't pay their fines, these things just kind of stand out and stay forever. So this will authorize them to enter into a secondary collections process. They have a collections company or agency that they work with. It's outlined in front of you how that will take place. They will get a notice at 30 days, a notice at 60 days, at 90 days. They say they're going to be going into collections, and then they will walk through their collections process. There is a fee for that. We will get 65% of the money. They will get 35% of the money. At the present time, we have $3,063,591, so to speak, on the street. This is money that's not been collected. Of that, money that's over 5 years old is $1,972,376. So letters will go out. The general return on these types of, I guess you would say, endeavors is approximately 15% of the total. Of the amounts that are over 5 years, you can expect between 8 and 12%, 12 to 13% return on the money. So we're looking at unanticipated revenues to come in from this of around between $300,000 and $450,000 into the city. This will authorize them to notify the collections agencies as well, and it still permits people, if they choose to fight their summons, to come in and fight it. They don't sell the debt, they just go through collections. The other part of this resolution or this authorization is for them to give us a system upgrade. They are moving off of their current platform, which is quite old. We haven't had an upgrade in a while. I've gotten them to give it to us for free, as well as giving us 9 new pieces of equipment, the handhelds that we use to print out the summonses. So overall, this is a positive for the city. If you have any questions?
Yes, please.
Mr. Lester?
Yes, thank you. It says here, Passport will upgrade 9 handheld ticket writers at no additional cost, and client agrees to monthly ACH remittance of web payments net Passport fees.
Yeah. So
what does
right
that
now,
mean?
the way it goes is they send us a bill and we pay them.
I'm sorry, the bill for the readers?
A bill for the, so they have a fee. I believe right now the current contract, don't quote me on it, but I believe it's around 8%, which is extremely low, is what they take for their billing services and stuff like that.
I'm sorry, 8% of the collections or 8% of the
8% of
tickets?
the total amount of fines collected, period.
Collected.
That has to
Okay.
do, in general, with their entire contract.
Right,
Not
yes.
collections. Collections
Okay.
goes up to 35%.
Right.
So, because it's a lot more work for them.
Right.
And it's a separate company. So right now, they send us a bill, and we give them money back.
8% of what we
8%.
collect.
What this is going to do is going to be through an authorized clearinghouse. So they are going to send us the money to our bank account without checks with an itemized deduction of what they're taking out, so there won't be the delay going back and forth. And then they will send us a bill every month showing the justification for their fees. It's fully auditable in the new system. The new system is going to be able to look in and see what we wrote, what the fines were, and what they took, and we can make sure that it's accurate.
On each ticket?
On each summons, that is correct.
And it will be searchable, right?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
This
thank
is a
goodness.
dramatic upgrade
Yeah.
from where we are today, which is why I'm pushing to get this done as soon as we can.
Okay, and are there any costs involved with the collections? I
Yeah,
understand-
the cost.
No, I'm not the 35%.
Oh.
You know, we do collections too, and the client has to pay a cost, let's say filing fees and stuff like that. Is there anything like that?
No, that's an all-in.
Okay,
That 35% is an all-in.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
I just want to thank you for this innovation. We were leaving money on the table, and now we're going to take it. So
what we're trying to do.
That's
Yep.
great. Any questions from the council? Mr. Bendo?
This secondary collections process, it sounds like it's still the vast majority even do not pay in the secondary collections process. What happens to those people that don't pay in the second set of systems?
So, New York State, in their infinite wisdom, passed laws that basically took all the teeth out of the ability of the judges downstairs to do anything. When you don't pay your tickets and stuff like that, they're not taking your license away and stuff. So this is the teeth that we can put back in. We go into people for their credit ratings, and we notify them for unpaid and outstanding balances. Yep, that's exactly what, and they asked me if I wanted to do that, and I said, absolutely, that's something we want to do. That's the motivating factor. Okay.
Any questions from the public on this item? No questions.
And finally, item 15 is approval of minutes of prior meeting, April 19th, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move.
Second? Voting, Councilmember Postoli?
Yes,
Councilmember Lester?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
On the minutes.
the minutes, the last
Item
one.
15, approval of minutes.
No, it's not an agenda item.
It's what?
We're approving the minutes from last.
Item
Oh,
15.
Yes. Dave, it's very hard to hear you down here.
Okay. I'll try to speak a little louder. Is that a yes vote, Mr. Lester?
Roy,
I don't think.
just say yes again.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Bendo?
Yes.
Vice President Treston?
Yes.
President McGinnis?
Yes.
Okay, on to the voting portion. Item 1 is a local law amending Subpart C of related acts related to the Charter of the City of Long Beach regarding a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
No.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 3 is a bond ordinance authorizing financing for the cost of a settled claim against the city in the matter of Sinclair Haberman LLC, the Zoning Board of Appeals of the City of Long Beach, the City of Long Beach, and Scott A. Kemmons as Commissioner of the Department of Buildings of the city, stating the estimated total cost thereof is $75 million, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $75 million bonds of said city to finance said appropriation. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
As you know, I have not voted on any of these since I was not involved in this, but the bond ordinance is important. There's no other way around it. the payment of $75 million for a $150 million judgment is, no matter what I feel about the judgment, is still a good deal. So for the first time, I'm going to vote yes for this.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a donation for a new sign for the Long Beach Ice Arena. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought that was an echo.
Who got that one?
I think Liz came in first.
Liz got that. And you want a second?
Okay,
Okay.
yep.
Voting, Councilmember Paschali.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing budget amendment for the general fund budget. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Paschali.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase 2 vehicles for the city's police department through New York State Office of General Services. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Paschali.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
And President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing budget amendment to the general fund budget. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Paschali.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase a fire department ladder truck. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Paschali.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
No.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 9 is a resolution authorizing budget amendment to the general fund budget. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Paschali.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 10 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the contract for asphalt overlay work at various locations throughout the city on an as-needed basis. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Paschali.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 11 is a resolution to schedule a special meeting of the City Council for Tuesday, May 24th, 2022. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Paschali.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 12 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an inter-municipal cooperation agreement with the County of Nassau to receive funding for the purchase of an office trailer and related items. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
I will. Oh, sorry.
Who got that?
Liz.
Liz, okay. Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Paschali.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 13 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding motor vehicles and traffic. Who would introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Okay.
Right.
Voting, Councilmember Paschali.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
And finally, item 14 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend an existing agreement with Passport Labs Incorporated, formerly known as Complus Data Innovations, Inc. Who would introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
City Manager's monthly personnel report has been filed by the city clerk. Who will make a motion to close the meeting?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Okay, one moment.
Before you all go, just wanted to say thank you and be safe out there. Have a good night.
We'll see you in 2 years.
I meant the whole thing. I'm getting cheated. Keith said the over and under was just for the meeting, not for the welfare. I said, I'm getting
Okay, we're going to start good and welfare. Okay, Adrian Esposito. She's gone. Scott Bachner.
This birthday,
Crystal Lake.
we're in the middle of
No. No.
Thank you.
Good evening again, Crystal Lake, Long Beach, New York. Regarding the comprehensive plan update, or the comprehensive plan in general, going back to approximately 2007, a preferred developer was designated. There were multiple reasons why the process or the project did not move forward at that time. One was the 2008 stock market crash. The finances weren't there. The second component was the National Grid facility. At that point in time, it was thought or considered that the project would have to be relocated. However, to date, most likely that will not be the case due to the Rockaway lateral. So most likely that facility can be shut down. So the process is moving much quicker than what most people think. And the project is absolutely fabulous, the tentative project. However, there needs to be some tweaking across the board. So it would be the greater good in the most part for all. Mandated inclusionary zoning, a community benefit agreement. After the consolidation project is completed, things will start to move much quicker. North Park is known, the real estate, okay, it's astronomical. It's pursued viciously by many. I mean, that's the market, that's what it is. However, for the most part, over the past, I would say 6 to 7 years, it was buy low, rent, resell high. So it was a strategic plan that actually occurred, in my opinion. So that led to the demographics changing and a lot of other components. But right now, affordability across the board is crucial for all of us. I mean, in the great country of America, we have mothers searching for baby formula. So the gas prices are astronomical. Everything is just astronomical. So moving forward with this process, I think the main concern would be to retain the current residents as much as possible. We all have sand in our shoes. So thank you for the space and time, and everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lake.
And Ms. Lake, I think it's important because you got a wealth of knowledge filed away up there. To make sure, please try to attend the community inputs sessions. There's one Thursday night in the West End. I think there's one in North Park on Monday.
There's 2 Wednesday, one at West End and one at Temple Emmanuel.
Okay.
Isn't that Thursday?
And then that's Thursday are the 2 concurrent sessions, one at Emmanuel, one at the West End, and then there's one on Monday that is taking place at Magnolia Center on the first floor level there, where the stage is, and then there's another one in early June that's going to be at the library that's going to focus more on general economic development in the central business district. Okay.
John, I have the Christian Light Church on Monday. Has that been changed?
That was a hold on that one, so yeah,
Okay.
the location got shored up yesterday.
Okay.
So- Okay, but the consultants will be there, you know, the people working on the plan, so they need to hear the input.
Mr. Hodge.
James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street, here in our amazing city. It's always an honor to be able to speak to you, Madam President and Vice President and all of the council. Thank God for our wonderful city. I pray for us every morning with my family. May not always agree on everything, but we all pray for our city. And let us continue to pray for those in Ukraine and pray for those around the country that go through the tragedy that they have been going through. And again, the horrific tragedy in Buffalo, let us continue to pray for those families and those that were affected, because it's more than just the individuals that died are affected. They have children and loved ones that will be traumatized for the rest of their lives. So I wanted to just again stand with Crystal and say that I live in North Park, and North Park always seemed to be forgotten about. As we talk about Bayfront development, who will be affected immediately and probably adversely will be those that live there. Yet we have these volunteer meetings, and all of the meetings are outside of the immediate area that it will affect. There was someone that came in and tried to do affordable housing. Somehow the city council indirectly got involved. It wasn't us, but somehow the building department changed their mind. City council was involved, if you know politics.
No, that's
So,
not true.
all right, thank you. That's your opinion, and this is my time. Thank you very much, Liz Tristan. You were not the only one that talked to some people from the building department, but I got it. Thank you. So, as I was saying, there were 6 homes that could have been affordable, that could have helped families from right there staying there, but somehow they were told that they didn't have the authority, when yet they give those variances. If you look at a lot of the other meetings, you will see what I'm talking about. It's nothing different. Wasn't asking for nothing different. That don't go on from Nevada to Maple, from the bay to the ocean. Everybody need a little help, but nobody over there can really, majority can't afford $5,000 a month. But the homeowner wanted to make those affordable. And if the city really wanted to do that, they could have done it before this whole Bayfront project. So as I'm saying, there's a meeting in the West End, there's a meeting at Temple Emmanuel, there's a meeting at Magnolia. But this Bayfront area will affect the majority of where the majority of African Americans are, and that's in the North Park. But there's no meeting in a city-owned building in the Martin Luther King Center. They should have immediate input on what happens in their area. We've been gentrified. Crystal was a part of the gentrification. Where Stop and Shop is, that was another gentrification. I saw my family members moved out, and so forth and so on. The history is there. Crystal have a lot of knowledge in her mind, but it's documented. Let's not continue doing the same thing over and over. Black people keep going through over and over. Even in Ukraine, they were getting pushed off the train, not because they weren't Ukrainian, not because they weren't college students, but because they were black. Let us treat everyone fairly. God bless. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Thank you. And Eileen Hession.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Madam President.
Yeah, you got to lower your voice. You know, we had a beautiful evening tonight. There was no yelling. Everybody got along. That's the way we want to roll.
Well, you look at it as yelling. I look at it as projecting. All right? So it's a, some words. But I love you, Madam President. I got you. I just talk a little loud.
Okay. Well, thank you. Again, we're all done for tonight. That's it. Great job, everybody. Great job, everybody. Really, really amazing night. Thank you.
I'm very competitive.